Wonderful. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for having us. We're excited about our topic, which is when brand meets performance. Are marketers missing the touch points that shape behavior? And I am very excited to be sitting on this side as your moderator today. Kalli Chapman, I'm with Prudential Financial, specifically lead up global media for both Prudential and PGIM, as well as global sponsorships. And I'm joined by a lovely group. We have a good variety today, which I'm really excited about. So I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves, but just request you add a little fun fact at the end, which is tell us your favorite brand as a consumer. So cannot be where you work. Please don't cheat. Kick us off, Tim.
I can go first?
Yes, please. Let's go in order.
Say first for last. My name is Tim Finnigan, and I head up brand strategy at Verisk Marketing Solutions. We're a consumer insights company. There was a gentleman earlier that talked about right message, right place, right time. We help companies do that as well. My favorite brand is Patagonia. I love their brand promise. My favorite campaign is when they have an ad that says, "Don't buy this jacket." Real quick, Kalli, just real quick.
You're already breaking the rules.
I know. I asked my 3 daughters what their favorite brand was. I got Rhode Skincare.
Good one.
I got Summer Fridays.
Also good.
And my youngest daughter said Zach Bryan. And I go, Claire, brand, not band. Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Taylor
Hi,
Swift.
everyone. My name is Jason Ng. I'm the CMO of Typeface.ai. We are a leading marketing AI platform. We allow marketers to create campaigns highly personalized at scale. Spent 20 plus years in tech across marketing, Amazon and Microsoft, and started my career in P&G. My favorite consumer brand is Costco. I live right next to their headquarters in Issaquah, Washington, so I know a lot of my neighbors work there, but such a strong brand. They actually don't do a lot of above the line, but yet this company has such a huge loyal following, not just in the US, but across the world. And as a father of 3, I get great deals there.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Huo. I'm an SVP of advertising here at Paramount. I run the SMB customer segment that is buying CTV ads for the first time. So you see little flyers on your chairs. That's my team. My favorite brand, I was definitely not going to say Paramount, but I think my favorite brand is Warby Parker. They've done a great job at becoming one of the first D2C brands to make a very old school industry cool and fun and innovative. And they also made a seamless transition to brick and mortar, which is really, really hard.
And they have a great price point too. Well, I guess I wouldn't be a marketer if I didn't have a ton of favorite brands. But I'd have to say the one I'm the most loyal to is Orange Theory Fitness. Do I have anybody out here that goes, all right? It's really my favorite, not because I've been a member for over 11 years now, but because they do a phenomenal job of keeping to come back, right? Craving that fitness. They're constantly evolving, adapting to new technologies. And as a true performance marketer, you get your results and how'd you do in a report. So it really does fit within my lifestyle. And I think if you haven't tried a class, get ready for one because it's awesome and be prepared to be addicted.
And she gets a free month off every time she mentions it.
And also I lead the addressable marketing teams at KINESSO. That's a nice way or a different way of saying performance marketing. But yes, so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Way to set up our first question here. So we're going to start broad, and we want to hear from everybody on this one. So try to keep it a little short, Tim, all right? How do you define the relationship between brand and performance? Are they truly at odds, or have we created a false dichotomy? You want to start with Jason? You want to start us off?
Yeah, sure.
He's already cutting himself off. I like that.
So a lot of people think that there's this dichotomy between brand and performance, but I don't see it this way. I think as marketers, we're creating a system of which brand and performance are part of. The way I think about a good mental model is think about brand as the thing that creates demand and desire, and performance marketing as the thing that captures that demand and converts it into an action, usually a sale. And another analogy someone once told me is if you think about you're a marketer, you're trying to take your vehicle from point A to point B, the engine in which the fuel in which you drive that car is your brand, your messaging, your positioning, and then the engine that converts that and gets that going, so it's really more about efficiency and yield, is performance. So that's really helped me think about how those two work together, and they're not really separate in my opinion.
I agree with that. When we first launched our ads platform, we had to do a ton of marketing around that. We focused first on performance, and life was great for the first 6 months. We saw good results, the best CPAs that we thought we could get. And then around the 6-month mark, we hit a point of diminishing returns. And we were like, hey, where do all the businesses go all of a sudden? So it's pretty natural. And that's when we had to pivot and actually start investing more in the brand, more into consideration campaigns. And once we started doing that, we saw better results in performance. So it's all related to each other.
I think we created this ourselves, and that's because of the way that we're structured, the different goals. Sometimes they're not the same. There's this like natural tension that happens, so it's just easier to keep them separate, but you will lose the long-term game if you continue down that way. So I definitely agree with what you have to say, and it's not easy. But the lion's share of your budgets are digital, and there's a lot of data and a lot of addressability that could be used for branding as well, not just a performance vehicle.
So I'd sort of lean toward what Keri was talking about. Is like I've always heard, like, depending if two groups don't get along, it's like, oh, sales and marketing aren't aligned, or now brand and performance aren't aligned. It's just making sure you have the same goal and that everyone's in the same room or the same TV screen that says, all right, this is what we're doing, this is how we're getting there, and stop talking about strategy and really go into the tactics on how to get that done.
Wonderful. So Keri, quick follow-up question for you there, because I noticed you said addressable a couple times, but I think the first time maybe performance. Can you talk from your perspective on the agency side, what structures do you think we need to sort of phase out, and what ones do we need to dial up to sort of allow for that joint storytelling and those common goals to happen?
Yeah, I think the silos are created by the way that you're structured, meaning where your budgets live. And that's just not how consumers actually look for your brands or want to engage with them. So in my experience, the best way to, I guess, tackle that is through a shared goal, but you should have what we would call like sort of scrum teams around whether that's an audience or shared goals, and pulling each one of your teams around that together versus your sales team, a channel team, all in silos, because you're going to be missing the through line. So what's been really successful is having these scrum teams across all, whether it's you have your SMEs, but then also your brand strategy all together around whether that's a campaign objective or an overall brand marketing objective.
Yeah, Jason, anything to add from the brand marketing standpoint? Obviously, leaner teams, so it can be tough, but suggestions on how to structure on that side?
Yeah, I always tell people what you don't want customers to see is your org chart.
That's right.
You don't want them to see what is brand and what is performance and what's very different. And ultimately, especially in this AI age we're in, like, teams are much smaller and much leaner. And when you're running AI in marketing, you're managing a system between people and AI. And so your actual KPIs and your channel level goals kind of collapse into, like, what you're trying to do ultimately is drive revenue to win new customers. And so you want to show how whatever goals you have at a individual level ladder up to it, but everyone should know what the North Star is, whether it's market share, revenue, or driving customer acquisition.
Perfect, thank you. Staying on this topic before we head someplace else, do you think marketers overall as a community, right, are over prioritizing the short-term measurable outcomes at the expense of those long-term brand building? Like, if you had to sort of score us of how we're doing? Anybody feel free to
I think the answer is yes. And we see it all the time where it's like, okay, we need this. We need this now. okay, well, how about, like, shouldn't we, let's put a strategy into a place. Like, how are we going to do it? And what are the tactics below it? So 100% that you can't, you need to have the teams that are in charge of that talk to each other. Because if they're not, then you're competing, and then you're not having the short-term and long-term.
I would say you have to deliver on and know how to deliver on short term in order to get permission for long term. And so think about, in performance marketing, you iterate, you test, and then you scale. And I think as marketers, we all want to do the big idea, the big campaigns, but it's scary when you're taking that to your CFO. But if you can demonstrate you know how to go after low-hanging fruit, that makes it a lot easier when you're ready to come in with a much bigger ask to do those long-term things.
For me, one of the reasons I got into connected TV advertising is I actually don't think these two things are necessarily at odds with each other. With connected TV, you have the premium, you have the reach, and being able to run ads across people's favorite TV shows. But at the same time, in the digital space, there are so many more capabilities now than ever before to allow someone to track what happens when someone watches your ad on TV, and then what kind of actions are they taking on their website, or what kind of purchases are they making. So that's why I don't really think of an or scenario. I think of an and scenario, but it's only and in certain scenarios. Yeah.
Because ultimately, performance is going to drive your efficiency, and branding is going to drive your elasticity, right? So you have to do both in order for them to convert faster. So that I'll just leave you. That's the biggest tension, right? Is how do you budget for those things when we're so used to optimizing for what we can track and what's in the short term. So it's I think a natural feeling to over-index to short term, but to everyone's point here is that you can't ignore the brand because that favorability is going to help them convert and make your performance work harder.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this to one or two of you in the prep call, but I'm a big fan of the WARC multiplier effect report. Great white paper.
Yes.
Love it. And it's almost like reframing the conversation, right? It's like not finding the balance between performance and brand, but how are you actually maximizing the multiplier effect? Because that exists, and that's how we should be talking about it, right? As a collective community. Okay, we're going to shift. I'm going to start with you, Tim, because I'm really getting into your world here,
Perfect.
right? We're going to shift to consumer behavior. So which moments, and I think maybe, Emily, I know your answer based on your last answer, but we'll still find out if I'm right. Which moments in the consumer journey do you think carry the most unrealized audience, and why are they often overlooked?
First of all, great question.
Why, thank you, Tim.
This is how I think of it. There's almost two answers. I'm going to go the easy one first. And I think post-purchase is like where everyone's talking about acquisition, but what happens when after those customers buy from us? What happens to them when we want to keep them? So I also host my company's podcast, The Marketing Report, and I had a marketer on from Anthropology. And he talked about, we're not, in our loyalty program, we're not trying to get people to go from 2 dresses to 5 dresses. We're actually trying to be more relevant in their lives. So when they think of a present, or they think of a gift, or they think of an event, they're coming to Anthropology. So that's why I think that gets overlooked. Like, we're so focused on acquisition and mid-funnel and what happens to get them to sign up for loyalty, but what do we do when they get here?
I love that answer. I wasn't expecting that one. How about you, Jason?
Yeah, what I've seen is, especially in B2B and B2C, is when someone goes into a purchase decision-making process, they already have like two to three brands in mind. And so what you want to make sure you do, to your point, Tim, is there's a priming effect, or you want to build what they call like availability in people's minds. Like, you want to come up in their mind when they're thinking about whatever it is they're about to purchase. And so you can't just think about what's happening once they're in market, but what's happening outside of the market. And so that's why it's really important to maintain a certain level of share of voice and brand presence so that you are in that consideration set. Because if you're not, it's a very hard sell when someone has started that buying cycle.
Can I jump in real quick?
Please.
Jason, this is a really good point, because there was a J.D. Power study, and it was about auto insurance. And I was talking to him. His name's Steve Crutzen. And he talked about, or I asked him, I'm like, well, what about all these people like Geico and Liberty Mutual? They're spending all this money for awareness. Where is that in the purchase process? And he's like, it's consideration. He's like, it doesn't even matter what the brand is. It's perceived quality of service, and how easy it is to work with them. So it's like exactly what you said. Like, let's be there for awareness, but when the rubber hits the road, you need to be there for service and other things like that.
Totally.
For me, I think about how do we spend our days, right? So as a US adult, most people spend 8 hours a day working, 6 hours sleeping, 2 hours talking to family and friends, another hour on social media, and 2 hours watching TV. Those are actual stats, by the way. But then when you think about how we spend our marketing budgets, at least in my customer segment, the SMBs, they spend 75% of their budgets on social media. And even though that's only 1 hour a day from the end consumer, they over-index on that because social media has made it so easy to track what kind of actions are taken because it's all in a closed, phone environment or a web environment, right? So I actually think about the overlooked moments are the hours of the day that are not on social media. When you talk to family and friends, you get so many referrals. Like, very few companies have a referral system. TV advertising, that's 2 hours a day. Most SMBs don't do anything with. So that's how I think about the unrealized moments, like trying to match how people spend their day to where are we meeting them as a marketer.
And just to build on that, I think it's very much in that evaluating, comparing, researching. I think a lot of times that's overlooked because it's hard to have continuity and evergreen content all the time that's living. Because if you're either in brand, you're doing big brand awareness and you're in your social world, or you're in really high acquisition and you're over-indexing on search and lower funnel, where this is middle, where it's SEO, content, even retail to a degree, where people are looking and evaluating constantly 24/7, and brands have a big opportunity to create content that will be evergreen and live and sustain longevity that could help not just acquisition, but brand building, because it will live and organically. So, right, like everyone's going to talk about AI, and it's specifically Gen AI and how search behavior is changing. SEO is hot. So I would encourage you all, that is a channel that's always overlooked because it feels complicated. But I really feel like if you're going to go after Gen AI and get on that Gen search trend, that's where you need to be spending your time from a marketing perspective.
All right, so you just started to go exactly where I was hoping. So let's pull the journey together with how we started this conversation. I'd love to hear from some others here. So it's really thinking about how these shifts in consumer behavior, right? Everything from fragmentation, always on mobile, social e-com, how have they changed that quote unquote balance between brand and performance? And I think you sort of just went to the convergence in a channel like SEO, which was traditionally only looked at in one capacity.
Yep.
I'd love to hear some other areas of where we think that the consumer journey has really changed how we think about that balance.
So I think that the consumer has changed the journey rather than the journey changing the consumer. And Keri, you bring up really good points on like sort of that unlooked area. So I think of it in a B2B lens where we have, like when we're trying to reach our potential customers, they're doing research. They need thought leadership. They need the stuff on the website. They need FAQs. They need things. So we're conforming to what they need. So it's sort of, and it can be the same thing in B2C as well. It's like, what does that consumer need? And you need to be at that spot when they're needing it.
Yeah, I think it is exactly that. It's about showing up in the right places wherever your customers are. And nowadays, customers are doing a lot of their research themselves. But I think the way I see it is you look at what channels are emerging, and in the old days, people trusted Gartner or Forrester if they were doing a B2B software evaluation. But now a lot of search is happening, or a lot of conversations happening in Discord, or it's happening in Reddit, and those AEO, or those answer engines like ChatGPT, are actually pulling from a lot of those sources.
Yes.
And so you want to make sure you are wherever the conversation is happening. And I always think about just put the customer first in everything you do. A lot of the tactics, channels are going to change, but as long as you have a good pulse on how they take in information, who they talk to, how they make a purchase decision, you'll always be on the right side of change.
I couldn't agree more. And just to really add to that is just to land the plane, it's the new influencer. Like, you're literally being able to talk to your consumer one-on-one through an AEI or Gen AI, ChatGPT of the world. So definitely underscore that point of finding out where they're sourcing it and optimizing your content. So I think content is where they will get the answers from. And there's other influencers. Everyone thinks around creators or your traditional influencers, but even the original, let's say the OG of influencers, was editorials and publishers. And how are you using your publishers and your partners to also create content that will be indexable through Gen AI?
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about the data that sort of powers all of this, right? And Tim, I'll start with you as from the research side, and consumer insights. Although we'll see if that's a word we're killing later. We'll see. So behavioral data connects the silos, right? It shows us not just who the customers are, but how they engage, how they're moving through that journey, how they're making decisions. Can you share a very real, tangible example of that? And maybe it's a current client, past client. Just make it really real for us.
Sure. So how you tie that together is that if you think of, we work with a partner. I don't know if you guys have heard of Bridge or Cardlytics, where it's credit card purchases, where it's really identifying the unknown user and tying that back to what they're buying, so then you can send them a personalized message. Specifically, one of the things that we do really well at Verisk is that we capture in-market shopping. So you're able to take a company's first-party purchase, and it's usually in insurance and consumer finance and home services, but we know when they're shopping. Can you imagine that personalization that can happen if you're sending someone a message while they're shopping, or they filled out a form like, I want more information about auto insurance? It's really valuable.
Wonderful. Emily, anything to build there?
Yeah, I was thinking about Jason's point about how if you solve for the customer, everything else will fall into place. So we in SMB especially have to solve a lot for the customer and growing their business for them, because that's what ultimately they're coming to us for, is advertising and getting their brand out there and driving some sort of conversions. So recently we launched a new product, it's still in beta, it's called Performance Multiplier, where when you run an ad on our TV, you can actually now, with a click of a button, extend your ad onto other trusted premium websites that we don't own ourselves, but at least you can have a one-stop shop of being able to track what happens to your ad, and if people or viewers are engaging with it after the fact with Paramount Ads Manager. So, even though that's not on our content and we know that's an extension of our audience, it's still really to help them be able to track their marketing campaigns much more easily with this performance multiplier.
Yeah, let's stay on the tracking for 1 second. Keri, I'm gonna come to you for this one.
Okay.
So do we think that the ways we currently measure bias performance marketing? Is that part of the problem with how we've been sort of maybe more focused on that as a collective community?
I guess it's bias if you have a short-term goal. So yes. So I think the way around that, though, is if you are squeezing out efficiencies and uncovering, let's say, extra dollars, really understanding where you need to put that next is how you should be thinking. And it shouldn't be just to drive more of the same customers. How am I driving an incrementality? Are my conversion rates going down and suffering? These are some signals from an acquisition or traditional performance marketing lens of like, ooh, I need help with brand, because we can't do it alone. We will hit a wall without branding. I've seen it happen, whether you are a direct-to-consumer brand or you are an omni-channel brand, it happens. You will hit a wall if you just do acquisition marketing.
Yeah, just to add, I was at Amazon during the time where they were spending nothing on brand to billions in brand. And the first prerequisite to brand is you have to believe in brand, right? Like it is somewhat of we used to call it a feels right type of spend or a conviction type of spend. And we sought out to prove it scientifically at Amazon. And no one has more data about purchases than Amazon, of course. And so we hired a bunch of economists, and we did incrementality tests. We did econometric, regression-based models to show where you saw lift. And we certainly saw lift in terms of direct return on ad spend. So like how much more toilet paper or cross-category sales did you see when you ran a Super Bowl ad? And then we also measured indirect return on ad spend. When we looked at a lot of performance marketing channels, how did the efficiencies, how did the cost per actions change in a positive or negative direction when we ran brand advertising? And the key thing with brand is you do have to spend above a certain threshold for that stuff to take effect. And so if you're ever in that boat where you need to validate brand, spend a little more than you think you need because you don't want the false negative. But overall, like the data showed that this was really working well for the company, and now they're probably the biggest advertiser, if not top 3.
Yeah, it's a spend, and it's also the duration of those campaigns. People expect that they will run 3 days and see some sort of measurable result and be able to prove out your ROAS, and that's just not realistic at all. I really recommend all marketers to at least, and this is the very least, run a month, but really think about having a multi-month strategy on how you want to achieve your goals.
And just one last thing. So I think we're very conditioned to look at dashboards and budgets usually flow through what is working for what can be proven. And as we were talking about what's being overlooked, those are things that are really hard to measure. And so that's why that's my hypothesis of why they're also being overlooked, is because it's very hard to track how you're shaping preference through to conversion.
Thank you for saying that, because the guy who builds our dashboards is like the most powerful person at our company. It's like, Jeff, can you please build us a dashboard? All right.
So Jason, I'm going to come to you first with the AI question naturally, right? So with AI-driven targeting, personalization, the list goes on and on and on, right? Do you think there's a risk of naturally doubling down more on this performance-only mentality because of what it enables? Or do you feel like sort of the benefits on more of the brand marketing side are as prevalent and as utilized that we won't sort of be caught in that situation again?
Yeah, so there's somewhat of a paradox in that AI-first marketers are actually utilizing AI to do a lot of the performance or the algorithmic marketing, like either through bid optimizations, content personalization and creation and scaling, and answer engine optimizations. But what that does is when they can get the AI to do that work, it actually frees them into thinking more bigger about what's the big idea, because at the end of the day, once everyone is doing that, it's no longer a differentiator. And so we're seeing some of the more progressive customers we work with actually start to lean in harder on brand because this AI is taking care of a lot of the performance marketing for them.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic, and I think the simple way to say it is once you change your mindset that AI is a tool to AI as a system is really where you'll start to see the benefits of, let's say, agentic AI workflows. Because you can have all of these AI, tools spitting a ton of opportunity for you, but you don't have the manpower, the capacity to actually execute them as quickly as they're coming in. So once you can evolve beyond the tool and get it into your systems and your workflow is really where the power will come from. And so part of that is that AI alone is not the answer. You definitely need the human oversight, but that's just to make sure that you're unblocking the blockers throughout your whole marketing supply chain, essentially, in order to get the power and the full, leverage the full power of AI. Because it's not just a tool. It really is a phenomenon that we are just about, I think it's going to take off even more, that we don't even know where. So the companies that will succeed will start thinking it less as a tool and how you're integrating that into your systems and your processes.
I like that. Okay, we're gonna do a little quick fire to wrap us up here, and then we'll let the audience ask any questions that they may have. So if you can each do a rapid fire for these questions, that'd be great. Let's start with you, Emily. What's the most underrated touch point that you want everybody in this room to pay more attention to when they leave today?
I think thinking about where people are making decisions and consideration is a huge part of that. So, going back to my earlier example of how people spend their day, think about how people spend their days talking to your family or friends, at work, on watching TV, and even social media to some extent. But, an hour on social media should not translate to 75% of your budgets.
Keri?
I think we all know this as the messy middle. It's only messy because you're not consistent. So think about that and how you're creating consistency with content for, I'd say, organically, and how then you're amplifying that content strategy.
Jason?
So word of mouth is the holy grail of marketing. So the extent to which you can enable that is so important, and it's hard to measure. But I think the most underrated touch point to deliver that is figuring out communities and figuring out how to get people to talk on your behalf through the power of community.
So I touched on it a little before, but I think it's that very, very top of the funnel where you're having quality, authentic information, research, thought leadership papers, whatever. I'm B2B marketer. So coming from there so people can make decisions and learn about you in a more authentic way.
Okay. All right, and now for this one, what word or phrase, and it can be one we've used many times here on this panel today, should we as an industry think of retiring? Who would like to go first?
I'll go first. So I work a lot with Google. They love introducing new buzzwords, and so that you don't understand what's really happening and you trust in them. And so they introduced this term brandformance as a way of getting me to spend more money on whatever product it was on YouTube. And so I hate that word. It's not very creative, and it's an empty promise.
I feel like can we all agree? Is there any objections
I haven't heard it,
to retiring that one?
It's dead on arrival.
Okay, all right.
Are we talking about, are we making fun of Google now or just brand performance? Because I think,
Reel it in, Tim, reel it in.
sorry, I apologize. You're in charge, I'm sorry.
Emily?
I'm going to say AI, only because it's in everything we do now, and that's using the term AI is describing, instead of saying a car or a plane, you're calling an engine, right? You're just using the word engine to describe a lawnmower to a train. So I'm going to say AI.
I'm going to say performance.
I love that you're the one who said it. Thank you.
Performance, please stop talking about, because everything should perform.
Thank you.
And performance means results and how you're getting it. I would love to retire that. And, the world
You
is
have
our
my
oyster.
vote. You have my vote.
All right.
Thank you for saying AI. Like when my wife goes to me, she's like, Tim, I know your Achilles is bothering you. Did you check ChatGPT to figure out what's going on with that? So I think it's overused. But I'm from a data company. Can we stop using the word data? Like
I thought you were going to say insights. Okay.
I
data.
know
Okay.
that was so, but I
I thought the
can't.
insights
So I'm gonna go
one
to
was gonna-
insights, and then my third word is Keri. That's my third word.
Awesome. Okay, thank you all so much. We have 1 minute. Can we take one question from the audience? Yes? Is there a mic out there? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry to belabor the point about AI, but I guess we're all talking about it. It's almost like AI soup, right? Everyone's talking about it, how it's disrupting our world. But are there any practical applications about how brands are using it, how they're incorporating it as part of their marketing mix to reach audiences, to personalize content to readers or to consumers?
Yeah, I'll just in broad strokes tell you in where customers are seeing the most benefits is in terms of analytics. So helping me understand what's happening not just what's happening on my business, but testing messaging, using it as a thought partner. That's number one. Number two is around content. And how you're able to scale content, deliver more personalized content, whether it's in the written word, which is easier because of how we use ChatGPT, but the technology on imagery and video has progressed so much, even in the last 2 weeks with Sora and Nano Banana, another bad Google word. And then the third area is optimization. So like, think about, if you are buying, you're all probably buying Google keywords, like lean into some of their products around how they're doing AI bid optimizations. You'll see a lot of efficiencies if you understand that and you leverage that.
We see marketers use AI to generate their videos. We used to call some of these videos managed AI and realize how confusing that term was because it didn't really mean anything out in the market. So now we just call it Creative Plus or Creative Express, depending on what level of a video that they're creating with it. But that's where we see a lot of our customers use AI.
First, the question was how are we using AI as a system within our teams? And give some examples. So this is the fun part. So at KINESSO, we have an AI console that allows our teams to build their own agents and to help them sort of be in the sandbox a little and help them understand and get comfortable with the large language models, all the different kinds. So that was the first part, is just getting them comfortable understanding how agents work. And I'm a part of performance, so part of me is creating healthy competition internally. And so a lot of the junior talent, we're coming up with these amazing agents that were making us so much more productive and actually helping within our process. So it is using the agents to sort of go through all of that manual work, our search marketers, our social marketers, and trying to come up with the listings and building all that out. So they have all this time now to actually tinker and execute more. So it's part of our workflow in terms of how we plan, there's an agent, our tacticals and opportunities. But again, it's just giving you maybe 50 to 60% there. You need the experts to look at those insights and look at what the AI is giving you to work through. But that only works when it's not just on one team. It has to be part of the entire process. So you have your strategy teams have their own agent that it's all attached to a workflow, and the AI agents bring that through. So it's all works. And then automation is the last piece to that. But that's where the system works, is the agents help you, your boots on the ground, as a part of your full end-to-end process. And then maybe the tail end of let's call it your performance marketing is handled from an automation standpoint. So it all has to be working together. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.